Good morning, I'm Anna Palmer.
And I'm Jake Sherman.
And welcome to the Daily Punch, brought to you by Punchbowl News. It's Monday, August 17th, 2026. Let's get in the mix. Here are your Washington headlines of the day. Number one, Crooks versus Commies on the campaign trail. Number two, more from Scalise on the 2026 campaign trail. And number three, we've got some news. Treasury is set to forge ahead on the genius rollout. All right, Jake, let's get to it. We have a look at how it is Crooks versus Commies, how both Republicans and Democrats are teeing up the divide and the two sides of the 2026 midterm election across the country on the airwaves. Very interesting to see. I mean, they're making it a pretty stark choice here.
Yeah, and we'll see if either of them work. I don't think most people think that the broad swath of Democrats who are running in this election are communists, but Anna, everywhere across the country, Republicans are saying that if you put Democrats in power, you'll get communists. And I don't know that will work. But a couple other interesting notes from this top that Brez wrote this morning. Hakeem Jeffries on Meet the Press yesterday said there will be at least 220 members of the House Democratic Caucus when they take back the majority, if not a number much greater than that. That is clip, as we say, Anna, clip and save that one. 220. And Steve Scalise said he thinks he'll have a 6-seat majority. So the battle lines are being drawn. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think this is the time where they kind of have to put up or shut up, right? They've been asked, and no one wants to. Everyone's couching what's going to happen in the midterms, but at this point, people want to know what they think is going to happen. I think it was also interesting to see Jeffries talk about, basically saying he doesn't back the Democratic Socialists of America agenda, including Medicare for all and abolishing ICE. Still, he's going to have to welcome these DSA-aligned members in his caucus. How he handles them and actually gets them on the same page as what Democrats want to do in the House is going to be something that we are going to be watching extremely closely. And this idea that Democrats are kind of going after the fact that, they believe Republicans are crooks and Trump in particular. Jeffries hit that message, as did Senator John Ossoff, the Democrat from Georgia, saying, he was going after Trump on stock trading and alleged corruption on the sale of high-priced subscriptions to Wall Street for early access to presidential announcements on True Social. I mean, this is where the Democrats are clearly deciding that they think that they have an advantage here.
Yeah, listen, I would say on top of that, Anna, like the theme kind of writes itself in a way. I mean, you have the economy or inflation's high, things aren't great for a lot of people, costs are high, et cetera, et cetera. Trump made $1.4 billion on crypto holdings last year. People just don't think that's on the level. Just like, by the way, Anna, they don't think it's on the level that people could trade stocks when they're in Congress. Something that Congress has not done a good job on policing, which you and I have written about for many, many years, probably more years than either of us would care to admit. So that's kind of where we are. I just think it's a very interesting dynamic heading into, and as we say at the top, 78 days till Election Day.
All right, Jake, let's go on to the number 2 story of the morning. Inside Scalise's 2026 pitch. You were in Wisconsin with him. And it's often, as you write, I like this lead, it's often difficult to find any good news for House Republicans these days. The polling is grim, especially in the economy. Iran is a mess. President Donald Trump is claiming that the U.S. is going to make the Strait of Hormuz a U.S. territory, and the cost of living is high, with gas prices topping $4 per gallon. But that is not stopping Steve Scalise from seeing a very different 2026 picture.
Yeah, this dovetails with the top. It's, they say everyone's a communist. This is everywhere across the country. I mean, it's Steve Scalise saying, if we all stay home, guess what happens? The socialists win. The socialists are on the ballot in November. Make no mistake about it. We'll have to see if that works. But, he's tying everyone to El Sayed in Michigan, Zoran Mamdani in New York City. It is he says that you don't need to explain this for people. Quote, they see these socialists for what they are. And he says this is still a center-right country. That it's the bet they have to make, Anna. And I was thinking about this a lot over the last couple of days. I mean, their basic 2026 campaign is the one big beautiful bill. That's all they've really got to talk about. This has not been a legislatively hot Congress, let's say that. I mean, they've passed a lot of things that certain segments of the population care about, but this is not like, say when your principal campaign argument is we stopped your taxes from going up and the other side voted against your taxes from going up. It seems simple, but it doesn't seem to be resonating. I mean, you got to say that. It doesn't really seem to be resonating. A couple other quick things. Steve Scalise did say that permitting reform, something that he's championed for a long time, would be atop the agenda. I know, Anna, we talk about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You're still hopeful in the lame duck. Hope springs eternal, Anna. Hope springs
I don't know
eternal.
hopeful. I mean, I think it is one of the few things.
No,
that
you're still somewhat optimistic it could happen.
I think it's on if you're looking at things that could get done in a lame duck, where there's been a lot of work to lay the groundwork for Republicans and Democrats to support it, and the idea that the forcing mechanism is if power is changing in Washington, that is not going to go forward. It is one of those areas where you could see some movement and certainly progress. I think the other thing that I thought was a really interesting nugget, Jake, is Scalise making the case that a small majority helps focus the party's mind. It might be easier to manage than a large majority. That is very unique. That's a unique perspective that I don't know that I've ever heard.
Yeah, when I was talking to him about this, back when we were traveling, and I said, I asked him, I said, you're never going to have the majorities that you had. I was thinking about this in 2011, right after Republicans took the majority, they had 242 seats. I think, I could be wrong, and I'm sure I'll get an email from someone about this today. I think they got as high as 247 at some point in the years after that. But 242 seats, that seems like yeah, we could lose 20 on this vote.
I mean, honestly, I guess that's when you got that many votes, you're not as focused.
But in 2009, just to be fair, Democrats also had 200. How about this? 256 seats.
Wild to think about.
Goodness gracious. You're never, and this is the broader point that you and I keep making here, and we keep making in the newsletter and various forums, is that we're not going to have that again. I mean, this country, the gerrymandering, I mean, I don't know, maybe we'll have it at some point, but the gerrymandering is too stark to have 240 something seats, 250 seats. I mean, that's wild. They got up to 258 in that Congress. That is just a hell of a lot of seats.
All right, let's move to the number 3 story of the morning. A great item here. First in the vault, the Treasury Department will publish a major proposed rulemaking implementing the Genius Act later this morning. According to officials briefed on the plans, Treasury has released other proposed rulemakings to implement the stablecoin law enacted roughly a year ago, including broad parameters for state-regulated stablecoin companies and anti-money laundering requirements. This is, of course, our very own Brendan Peterson on the spot here.
Yeah, the today's release will cover one of the core parts of Genius, which is licensing requirements for individual stablecoin issuers. The proposed rule will outline when payment stablecoins can be offered or sold in the U.S. That sounds like it's very important, although Brendan is the only person that could tell me how truly important that is.
All right, we will leave it there. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. If you like the Daily Punch, share it on social media. Tell your friends. It's the best way to find out about us. And of course, go deeper on all things Punchbowl News at punchbowl.news. Have a great day and stay safe, everybody.